Welcome, 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 Browns fans. Happy Tuesday, October 27th. This is Pete and Joe breaking down the Browns Week 8 game against the New England Patriots. My name is Joe Mazzullo. This is my man, Pete Smith. Peter, happy Tuesday, brother. How you doing? Pete, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. Dillon Gabriel sucked. Let's go with that. There are a lot of things that make this game frustrating, but that's the one that drives me nuts the most, certainly.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty much what we've seen for the past month now. You've got a defense that loads up on the box and squeezes in on the running game, and it basically shortens the field. Every single snap for this offense is a red zone snap, and you're asking wide receivers to get open in a phone booth. You're looking for running backs to basically create when there are no holes there. You got an offensive line that's overwhelmed at the point of attack. I mean, this is as helpless and hopeless an offense as we've seen in quite some time, buddy.
It's just a matter of when the opponent can play base and just sit there and go, we don't care. It's just a huge indictment of what you have on the offensive side of the ball. Certainly the receivers have their own issues, but it comes down to the quarterback play and not being able to see the field well. And then there's just, I like Dillon Gabriel. I like the way he handles himself. I like his attitude and stuff off the field. I don't see any of it on the field. I want to see him fight for something, and it doesn't feel like I'm getting that. And it felt like at the end of the game, he was just defeated.
Yeah.
In terms of some of the throws that he basically was making, and the intentional grounding penalty was egregious. Obviously, the interception, both interceptions were bad. Obviously, the one to Spillane was worse. Yeah. But for a guy who has 64 starts, I'm not seeing 64 starts on the field right now, and that's sort of really frustrating. I get it. I don't think Dillon Gabriel is going to be a guy, to compare to Drake May, who's going to make everybody around him better. But I'm sort of just surprised that it's as bad as it is in terms of he's not functioning. I mean, to contrast the first drive of the game to everything else was really stunning, because the first drive, it looked easy. It looked, effective. They did a really nice job. And then as soon as that was over, it was just like they were done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get a little bit deeper into the Dillon Gabriel and quarterback stuff as we break down position by position with the game. Guys, a special shout out to the OBR streaming network for hosting us tonight. If you guys aren't familiar with OBR.com, which I'm sure that you are, but if you are not, head on over to OBR.com. They've got, at all times of the day, they've got news, rumors, reports, all coming out of Berea. They've got boots on the ground, guys like Fred Greetham, Pete Smith, Lane Atkins, all the information you could ever hope for. So be sure to tune into the OBR.com, especially as this season trails off. We're going to have more and more draft talk as more and more draft position and quarterback stuff starts to shake out. We're going to have plenty to talk about. So once again, man, make sure you check out OBR.com and do that subscriber forums. Okay, so let's shuffle over. Well, not shuffle over. We're still on Dillon Gabriel. So, Pete, the thing that discourages me so much about him is that he has a paper-thin margin for error with his skill set. He just does. He has to be precise. He has to be on time. He has to be in a clean pocket, all of that stuff. He doesn't have the arm strength to throw off platform. He doesn't have the arm strength to stretch the field, even in some of the best conditions, but that's not ever something that our offensive line is going to be able to afford him. I mean, talk me out of this. I thought going into this whole thing that it was kind of a hopeless situation just because of how limited he is physically, but the fact that the mental side is as far away for him, it at least appears. What's the hope here? I mean, am I crazy for just I can't even get into it until I see Shedeur Sanders, because I know what we're going to get out of Gabriel, and it's holding back the entire offense.
I don't think his arm is as weak as you do, but I think he's doing things to make himself look weaker. Okay. And part of that is the fact he's not looking down the field and he's not throwing it down the field. But I also think there have been times where he's not throwing in a way that's confident, in a way that's going to have the ball come out of his hand cleanly. And you saw that when he tried to throw that ball deep down the field to Isaiah Bond, and the ball basically went straight up. But like, whether it was the preseason, whether it's college, I've seen the guy throw the pill around like to a point where I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I get what the Browns see in him. I don't see that on Sundays. And I do think there's an element of that of the offensive line may have an impact, though I thought the protection was good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know how much better it's going to get than what he got this week. But I just don't think he's throwing with confidence that is going to lead you to believe he can do some of those things. So, like, I think some of what he's doing between not having his eyes in the right place, between when he's late and trying to rush, that it makes like it's making him look weaker than he is. But to your point, it makes it very easy to sit there and go, I don't think he has the capability to do it because he is not making not practice or playing with good habits. He's not playing throwing off the right platforms and stuff like that. He's making he's giving you the impression that he doesn't have that ability. And that's part of the problem. Is I think he does, but show me that you can do it. And like, that's part of the problem is like 4 games in, and it's not necessarily a fair thing, but you don't get to pick your opportunities. And if there was a different situation, you wouldn't be in there anyway. Yeah. So go in there and prove a point that you can be an NFL quarterback, that you can be more than an okay backup. And there's some sense like at times where it feels like it doesn't feel like he is playing to win a job. It doesn't feel like he's trying to, I want to get in his head, but like it does. I don't see it on the field as a guy going, I'm going to seize my opportunity and show people what I have. I think there's an element of this where, and I think that was like that Bond arm punt where he just sort of went like, screw it, I'm just going to throw it. Or Jerry Jeudy on 4th down in the end zone. It was like, I'm going to stop thinking, I'm just going to throw it. And that stuff like is really difficult to sort of watch, and it makes it very easy for you to go, I want to see whatever else they've got rather than this.
Yeah. Well, I want to make a point here because, there's a lot of shots being taken at Dillon from all sorts of angles and stuff. And this is nothing against the kid. Okay. And to be perfectly honest with you, Dillon Gabriel can walk into any sort of gym, any sort of LA Fitness, YMCA, whatever you want to call it. And he's going to walk on water. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a world-class athlete. But we're talking about the NFL. The NFL is full of Avengers, okay? And Dillon Gabriel's Hawkeye. He doesn't have any superpowers. He just doesn't. Like, that's the fact of the matter. That's what we're dealing with. We're talking about he's not a superhero, and he's in a league of superheroes right now. And you can't have that guy at the most important position on the field. And my thing with the arm strength, Pete, I agree with you. We've seen Dillon throw with zip. We've seen him make some big time throws, but those are when his feet are set and he's got a clean pocket and he can stand and deliver with good mechanics. You don't always get that in the NFL. And if he's not going to get that clean pocket and that good smooth delivery and his mechanics are all in line, the ball looks like he's throwing with his offhand. It's not good. And that's my issue. It's like, yeah, everything good, clean pocket, open receiver, he's your guy. But that's not the NFL. The NFL's organized chaos, man. You got to be able to navigate that. I don't think he's physically capable.
No, well, I think it comes down to your point that you're going to find yourself in bad situations. You better figure out how to put yourself in the right position for you to make those plays. Like that comes down to problem solving. I'm going to get caught off here. How do I make it work? Because there are guys who have done that. And again, when he was drafted, my immediate thought was left-handed Case Keenum. Well, Case Keenum figured out some of that stuff and was able to enjoy some success. So Dillon Gabriel has to problem solve those issues. He's got to read the defense fast enough. He's got to have his eyes on the right place fast enough. And when he gets in some funky positions, he's got to find a way to deliver the ball in a way that matters. So, like, to your point, as you mentioned earlier, not a whole lot of room for error. He's got to find those things, figure those things out. Whereas, a guy like Drake May, who is absolutely a superhero type player. Yeah. I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal. shows you what everybody else is trying to find. He shows you all the things you're sitting there going, man, why am I messing around with this? I got to get me one of those.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the biggest issue. We see the guys league wide that are those superhuman quarterbacks. They're big, they're strong, they're fast. They can stretch every inch of the field. You have to defend every inch of the field. You can't just bring your safeties up and bring up your corners on the wide receivers. You can't just play in a phone booth like defenses get to do right now, and that's the most frustrating thing, is that I don't even know how to assess anything about this offense or defense when you have an anchor at quarterback. And that was the crux of our issue, going back to Flacco. We didn't want to see Flacco get dealt or get benched when he did, because we have a young offense. You can't develop a young offense and a young quarterback at the same time. Like if the Cleveland Browns came out and said, you know what, guys, read the tea leaves, man, we're tanking. It wasn't in the cards. It was a rough start to the season. We knew we were going to be young. We knew it was going to be bad. Dylan's going to take us to the best pick we can get. That would make more sense to me than Dylan's the unquestioned starter. We're going to fix everything around him and go forward. That's how I feel, Well,
I mean, look, I always viewed, whether it was Kenny Pickett, whether it was Dylan Gabriel, whether it was Shedeur Sanders, you're taking swings. You're not sitting there going, this is our shot.
Yeah.
You're hoping to get something, lightning at a bottle. And if Dylan Gabriel becomes a good backup, fine. Like, that's fine. But to your point, like, unless you got super lucky, these weren't going to be the answers. And I think we knew that going in. I get my issue in sort of just, again, I wanted Kevin Stefanski to make his pick.
Yeah.
But this is why, if I'm going to go, with these type of picks, like I really like Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Out of guys like that, because you could at least look at Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe is athletic, and Jalen Milroe is, by all accounts, like a great kid and somebody that wants to be good. Like, I would rather take that. And if all else failed, we saw Quinshon Judkins against Miami Dolphins do the Wildcat. I can snap the ball to Jalen Milroe and get a more viable Wildcat package if that's all else that fails. Like, I don't hate the idea of doing the smart, can do all these things, but not, desirable physical tools. But if I'm going to swing, I'm going to try to swing for, try to get lucky with a guy I think can be great. Like, that's sort of where I just philosophically I differ, in addition to the fact that Milroe is younger, Dylan Gabriel is overaged. I don't think that's a strong swing anyway. With the Cleveland Browns. But then again, the way this thing's, sorted itself out, like, I sure as hell wouldn't have wanted Jalen Milroe to be like starting 6 games this year or something like that either. I would have looked at him as a guy you are taking with hope that
I mean, Milroe's the guy that you take and you almost hope he doesn't see the field for at least a year. A guy that you want as comfortable as possible, give him as much learning as possible, all that stuff. I mean, Gabe, look, I think that's, ultimately, like, my biggest issue with the Gabriel thing is I can understand where he was drafted, that he at least on paper presented a floor for the position. You knew you were going to have a kid who can come in, can operate an offense, and maybe he's never good enough to be the long-term guy, but he's going to be good enough to keep the thing going. And, like, I mean, that's the crux of my issue. Like, we're developing Case Keenum. Like, we know what Case Keenum is. And to expect this kid to come in and play as a rookie, the NFL, I don't care how many snaps he took in college, how many big-time programs he played in. The NFL is its own different beast, and it takes time. And this is a position, like, look at Baker Mayfield. Look at Sam Darnold. These guys are finally realizing what they can do. They're 4th, 5th, 6th year. I mean, Darnold, it took him, 5 or 6, right? Like, that's the position. And not only do you have an under-talented, undersized guy, but you're trying to fast-track a learning curve that you can't fast-track. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's tough. This is a really tough sell for me. And it's crazy to think that, like, we were so quick to get rid of Flacco and we dealt Pickett at the end of camp. what the hell were they watching with Dillon Gabriel in practice? Because if you listen to certain media members, this has been a constant all summer long.
I think, well, there's a cynical part of me that says, man, they loaded up on defense and really short drifted the offense and sort of puts them in a position to do this. But no, I think they in Dillon Gabriel, I think in practice, they must have seen a guy who could operate the offense and do things on time. Now, nobody's hitting him. And those things, that's always a different. Do some of these things. And again, it's a rookie 3rd round pick in 4 starts. So it's like, on the one hand, I totally understand the frustration. He drives me nuts because I don't see 64 starts. I see the physical limitations. I think there's more in there, but like at the same time, I don't see him fighting like he's trying to prove something either. And that's more annoying than anything is the lack of fight on his part.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it is what it is. It's a super tough position for him to be put in. And that's the thing. We're grading him. We're grading him with the last, 20 plus years of quarterback frustrations on our backs, and we're not being fair. And like, look, fair or unfair, it's just how he's being dealt with right now. But at the end of the day, this was his 4th start in his career. It's the NFL. He's on a young offense that was struggling before he got there. I mean, it's like the perfect storm for absolute offensive calamity. And it's, for better or worse, like we've been talking about it, man, we don't want this coaching staff gone. We want to see the offense get a little traction. We want to see the offense start making plays so that like there's a reason to stick around. There's a reason to fight through this adversity. But I mean, the way it's going right now, it can't be long before the locker room's lost. And then at that point, I mean, who the hell knows? You're going to see veterans start ducking out with injuries, all that stupid BS that we've seen in these lost seasons before. But let's break down a bit of the running game. Okay. And this is directly correlated to the quarterback too, but what do we have? 12 carries for 19 yards out of the backs. I want to say they had 68 total for the game, but you had 31 on the end around to Malachi Corley on the first drive. And then Dillon Gabriel had a 13-yard scramble in the second half. I mean, that right there, that's half of your yardage on 2 plays. Like, it's just nothing seems to be working.
Here again, the base defense that everybody's sitting there going, we're not going to lose to Quinshon Judkins, and whatever else happens. And until Dillon Gabriel is able to beat that or prove that you have to take him seriously, that's going to be what it is. Now, the plays they were able to get, misdirection. You're fooling the defense, and it was a good play. Malachi Corley doing more than he ever did for the Jets, just in a handful of snaps. And I like that element, but that should be something that's an additive, not the whole offense right now. And that's unfortunately where we're at. So, and then you see Quinshon Judkins leave the game with an AC joint sprain, which is problematic. And then Dillon Gabriel, they immediately go back to, which I don't hate. I like the fact that they understand what Dillon Gabriel is. I'm actually happy about that part. They immediately start putting him out and emptying some of these other things and giving him quick passes and some of that stuff, which would be great. But you have to open up the rest of the offense for that to matter. And we've got to see that. And the spacing thing. So like the other thing we're not seeing a whole lot of right now is screen game, because the defense is sitting right there. There's no space. So here again, like we are limited by what the quarterback position can do. We are limited by what the passing game can do. And it's another situation where we can see plays on the field that aren't being attempted or are there and are just wildly late, like missing, a wide open Isaiah Bond and allowing a defensive back to get in on the play that should have been a touchdown. And there are other plays that just aren't even attempted because his eyes aren't in the right place. But, none of this makes me question Quinshon Judkins. I think he's a stud. I like what Dylan Sampson can bring. And again, the offensive line is what it is. I don't think it's great by any stretch. On its best day, it's pretty average. But when you're putting it in that kind of disadvantage, you're gonna.
Let me ask you something, Pete. So, because I tend to agree with you, and I don't know if this is just nostalgia or whatever you want to call it. I don't think our offensive line is that bad. I genuinely don't. I think the interior is average to above average. I think the tackles can play. They haven't been healthy and it hasn't been consistent this year, but I think the line is better than they get credit for. Okay, how about this? How about the Vrabel comment about as soon as they, got done with all the trick plays, it was whatever. Do you take that as an indictment on Stefanski? Do you think that was almost, olive branch to Stefanski being like, this guy, has to, move mountains just to generate points for this system? Like how did you take that?
Look, Mike Vrabel respects Kevin Stefanski clearly. And look, when Mike Vrabel was with Tennessee, the shoe was on the other foot twice.
Yeah, agreed.
So he's not going to disparage Kevin Stefanski, who he's friends with and just worked with. This is clearly talking about talent. Because, when you say that type of thing, if the Browns had, let's just throw out Brian Thomas Jr. and, insert other guys who have been mentioned in trades, then you have to take this thing more seriously and you can't do what they're doing. If you had a better quarterback, this is and the limitations that Kevin Stefanski is forced to scheme around, they make it impossible to sort of succeed with any consistency. The Patriots were able to sit there and just sort of say, okay, we can see you.
So let me ask you this. Do you think put on your GM cap, say you're Andrew Berry, okay? Do you have motivation to go out and find a target to help this offense and try to get things going in the right direction? Or are you content with it is what it is? Maybe I'll sell some assets and bring in picks rather than, give away assets for players? How would you approach that? And what do you think the Browns are likely to do?
Well, I don't think short-term gains get you much. I think this is about a long-term process. And you made the decision to, one, get much younger this year on the offensive side of the ball. Offensive line not quite withstanding, although they've done some things to try to do that. KT Leviston, Tevin Jenkins, those type of things. But ultimately, you are trying to get if you're going to bring in somebody, it's guys who are under control for a while, younger players, hopefully, that you're going to be – that. Thing that's sort of temp stuff, then I'm not interested. And I'm also not interested in giving up premium picks for things I can then get in April potentially, as opposed to trying to get them right now. Like, the idea of trading even though I think Chris Olave is a talented receiver, I don't know the medical history enough. I'm not confident in that. And I see no reason the Jets would get rid of Garrett Wilson, and if they were, it would involve me paying so much to get him. Which is, you've got so many rookies. You've got Judkins, you've got Sampson, you've got Bond, you've got Larvin, all these guys. And I'm not going to, and Jamari Thrash, and you're about to get Cedric Tillman back and those guys. Like, I'm fine with rolling with that and trying to make it better and trying to get as much as I can, because if I can get 2 or 3 good players out of that group, like let's just isolate Bond and Larvin. If one of those guys can be something that's worth keeping, that's success, given the fact that you didn't draft either one. You just got them.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, you still got Jamari Thrash is still a young player that could, ascend into more of a capable role guy. He's been surprisingly consistent in limited opportunities. This has been a very, very, very difficult passing game to make your mark in for any sort of receiver or tight end. I feel like it is, in terms of receiver, the amount of actual targets that he's getting, Thrash produces. He gets open, he runs good routes, he catches the ball.
Yeah, Jamari Thrash is one of those things where every little taste I get, I'm happy with it, and I'd like to see more of it. I think he does a great job with the ball in his hands. So, and I'm certainly not down on Bond, though he's showing me the reasons I was worried about him in terms of being able to come in and be an immediate impact player. But every time Jamari Thrash gets the ball, I'm sort of pleased with it. So I'm hoping over the course of this 2 weeks, as they get ready for the Jets with the bye week and everything, that it is more get Jamari Thrash in position. coming back and getting him going. And obviously Jerry Jeudy has to be a priority. That's just the deal. But yeah, I want to see more Jamari Thrash. I want to see some of these. Harold Fannin, obviously very good, but yeah, Jamari Thrash in particular is a guy where I'm like, he doesn't get a whole lot of opportunities, but when he does, it seems to be working out pretty well. Yeah. So I'd lean into it.
Yeah, he was the only receiver that made a catch on Sunday. He was 2 catches on 3 targets, and then Bond was 0 for 4. Jeudy was 0 for 6. It's just getting these wide receivers and Dylan Gabriel on the same page has been extremely difficult. If it's not, like a drag route or a quick screen or something like that, it's been like pulling teeth. Harold Fannin had a nice game, as Harold Fannin has consistently done, week in and week out. I feel like David Njoku playing right now is a mistake. I don't think he's 100%. I don't think he's in great shape right now. I really wish they would have given him this game off to fully rest all the way through the bye week. What's your take on Njoku right now?
Well, I mean, look, the bottom line is the Browns want to win.
Yeah.
Like everybody, we can talk about like, yes, they're going with youth and all these other things. They are sitting there going, Kevin Stefanski is certainly not coaching to lose.
Yeah.
The Browns players are certainly not playing to lose. They may benefit, the front office may theoretically benefit, but I think if you could tell Andrew Berry that we're going to win every game the rest of the year, he'd take it. Like,
yeah, of course.
So as a result, if David Njoku can go out there and help you, I think he would. I think given what we've seen, evidently the decision must have been made that David Njoku can't really make himself any worse. Otherwise, yeah, I would sort of agree with you that it was probably would have to sort of wait and see if giving him that week off and the bye week would have been better for his health in the long run. But hopefully the result is that with the bye week and getting ready for the Jets, that he will be healthy enough that we're not going to lose anything. Because I mean, it sucks that he's not 100% because obviously you lose quite a bit. But unfortunately, this is sort of the deal when you are forced to put all these guys on the field to try to run the ball because you can't get anything else going in the passing game.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I would like to point out, in my opinion, is a direct reflection on the coaching staff and the veterans in the locker rooms believe in the coaching staff. David Njoku's not playing that game if he's not A, a team guy, B, loves playing in Cleveland for the coaching staff. If he wanted out, or if that was even a discussion, he sits and he patiently waits. Like I think that's a good sign for the locker room and for the coaching staff, is that you still got guys fighting through injury, high profile, high paid players.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the locker room at this point. One, there's only a couple guys that have any sort of ability to sort of phone it in and survive. Like Myles Garrett could theoretically throw in the towel. Well, he had 5 sacks and was pissed off they lost. Okay, like I have no worry there. Like Denzel Ward could theoretically phone it in. Like Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio could theoretically, do whatever. David Njoku, I guess, is sort of in that, though he's fighting for a contract. Once you get past those guys, like who has any real guarantee anything? Like it's a bunch of guys who are trying to fight for their job, trying to fight for the next contract, or in some cases trying to fight for their viability in the NFL at all. So like, there are a lot of, I think people underestimate just how many guys on this roster need this thing to work.
Yeah.
Because yes, maybe they'll get another shot somewhere, but there's a real chance that some of these guys on this team, if not the Browns, it's not because they're not talented. It's just because the league is what it is. And some teams are super specific that that may just be it. So like, you can't sit there and go, well, I'll just phone it in and see what happens next year, because you may not have a next year, or you get an injury that sort of ends you. I mean, we've seen this. JOK obviously, hopefully coming back. David Bell career over. We'll see with DeJuan Jones, but like you don't have the ability to sort of be like, I'll just see how it goes. It's not that sport. It doesn't allow you to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. It's funny. We do these position by position breakdowns, but it's so hard to really talk about anything with the offense because of just the way that it's constructed at the moment. I mean, how the hell do we assess the offensive line play on Sunday? Like it's hard at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Conklin was sort of up and down, but I think overall they were okay, like average-ish. I mean, like Dylan Gabriel had some opportunities. Obviously, it's tough to run into what they were dealing with. But like at a certain point, like the line is doing as much as it can, and you've got to get more out of her. Continuity, finally having the same unit for a second game. There's no indication that they will not have that unit out there for the Jets. Hopefully, everybody can't. Hopefully, Cam Robinson particularly will be healthier, fully back from whatever he suffered initially. Anyway, hopefully, Jack Conklin will be confident and good to go. So yeah, I mean, those things are. I think that is a good sign. Yeah. But it comes down to the quarterback position. And look, I think the bye week could be really good for that element. I think it could be good for the passing game. Hopefully it needs to be. I do think they can come out of this on the other side. Obviously, the Jets are theoretically a soft landing, though they do play some defense. Yeah. But just, this needs to be a very productive week and a half of prep to maximize the opportunity, because like this is your last little break, and then it's got to really get going. So I'm desperately hoping that even if it's not Dylan Gabriel, though it better be, that it's going to be good for those receivers and some of those skill position players that could come out better. The line's going to be healthier. That those things are going to be in a better place. And if it's not Dylan Gabriel, hopefully one, Shedeur Sanders' back is healthy, and two, he's getting better so that he can put himself in a position. So if the Browns want to make that switch, they're in a position where they can.
All right. Well, before we skedaddle over to the defense, guys, be sure to check out Browns 3D weekdays at 6 p.m. with our man Jeff Lloyd. Hard-hitting Browns action, unique perspective, one-man show. It's always good to get the info from it. So be sure to check out Browns 3D with Jeff Lloyd every day, weekdays, 6 p.m., fellas. Okay, so let's talk about Myles Garrett, because I think we both agree this is the best defender in football. He is, I mean, statistically right now, you can plant your flag and say this is the best pass rusher we've ever seen. It's fun to play with, whether it's a reality or not, but Myles has at least injected himself into that conversation. This guy's incredible, man. 5 sacks in a game that you lost by 20. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like the Browns finally faced a team that just treated them like everybody else. Mm-hmm. Like Myles Garrett finally got to play again. This is what I see all these other elite pass rushers get. Real opportunities to do this as opposed to snap ball out because everybody's so like that. I think this game sort of illustrates just how ridiculously scared everybody is of Myles Garrett. Yeah. Drake May, in large part, didn't play like he was terrified of Myles Garrett, and he played great. I mean, I cannot say enough good things about Drake May.
He's really good.
But it also allowed Myles Garrett a number of opportunities to make a play on the quarterback. And you and I watch other games, and you're sitting there going, why the hell doesn't the quarterback hold the ball long enough for Myles Garrett to make these plays? And this is the reason, because this is what happens when he doesn't do it, where he casually just beats double teams and, just blows up everything and gets in the backfield. Now, one of the sacks where Drake May foolishly decided he could, I guess, out-athlete it. It looked like Michael Strahan and Brett Favre for the one sack, but just that's how good this guy is. And it, like, for people with LeBron James, I want to see every minute of LeBron James playing. That is me for Myles Garrett. I will watch every snap this guy plays because it is incredible. And it's why I cannot fathom how people still said, well, the Browns should have traded him, because I have he just surpassed Reggie White in most sacks in the league before age 30 and blew by it. He needed 1. He got 5. Mm-hmm. And like, people will argue with me, but like, there's no compelling reason, unless he suffers catastrophic injury, why he will not be doing this until deep into his 30s and potentially 40, like Reggie White did.
Yeah. Yeah. And Julius Peppers did, and Bruce Smith did. When you get these all-time pass rushers that have that power and athleticism combo, they play for a very long time. And so I would say this with Myles. I can at least understand if Miles, because Miles hasn't come out and said it, but it's like it's starting to get a little louder after every game, his frustration, his this, that, and the other. So people are immediately connecting that to a trade or a potential trade. And that makes people, well, why didn't we just do it in the spring? I don't think people understand that not only are you not going to get the value that you want to get from Miles, there's so few teams that could actually trade for Miles. There's so many stars that have to align. You need to be a contender. You need to have money. You need to have assets. There's not a lot of teams that have those three things. There's just not. And the teams that do have those things, either Miles doesn't want to go there or we don't want the assets that they have. Look, if I'm Dallas, I'd rather have Micah Parsons than what's going to ultimately be 2 early second-round picks. Like, that's basically what you're talking about. You're talking about a pick in the late 20s, early 30s. That's not good enough for a generational pass rusher. So if you just want to punt on and be like, hey, he wants out, what are we going to do? Let's get whatever we can. I mean, that's fine. But I get this front office doing everything they can to work with Miles and keep him happy and keep him here.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is the Mason Graham trade basically got as much value as you are going to get from Myles Garrett. Maybe you're going to argue and say Andrew Berry would have gotten a better deal than Dallas did because Dallas did this in a ham-fisted manner. Straight up, the Browns got more for trading down from 2 to 5 than the Cowboys got trading Micah Parsons. So if that is the baseline, you already did the Myles Garrett trade, except you got to keep
Myles Garrett. Yeah.
Okay, I've got 2 picks in the 20s, maybe the late 20s, maybe the early 30s over the next 2 years. Like, yay. Like, yeah, it's valuable, but am I going to get anything close to what I'm going to get out of that? No. And again, this is if you subscribe to this idea that Myles could be out of the league in a couple of years, I don't. I have no doubt that he can play for an extraordinarily long time. And if the Browns get good, he's going to have every reason to do that. So, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. It sucks. Losing sucks. Like when Kevin Stefanski was asked in his press conference about Myles Garrett slamming his head, my answer would have been too simple. Losing sucks. Yeah. Done. That's it. It sucks. Like, it's not fun to lose. And, there are people who are undoubtedly thinking, well, Myles Garrett's going to be happy because he had the 5 sacks and whatever else happens. One, clearly not wired that way. He wants to win. And 2, the other thing that happened right as he was doing that was Harold Fannin was being carried off the field by David Njoku. And I think that's the other part that was like bumming him. I was like, the Browns were dropping like flies at that point in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks. So, I mean, yeah, he's up to 10 sacks. He got 5 in that game. He can do that, but to what end? And if that's not enough to win, like, that is really troubling for somebody like that. Myles Garrett is sort of cognizant of the fact that, like, he says the right things in terms of, look, what can I do? It starts with me. I have to do more, which is the right attitude. Yeah. But then you get,
but everybody knows that.
Then you're sort of at where you're at. So it's incredibly frustrating. But I don't sense that. I've seen nothing to suggest that they are going to be like, no, screw this, we're done. Yeah. Could that happen at some point? Potentially. But, like, there are too many situations where people see something or somebody says something and people want to read into whatever they want to read into it because they've drawn their own conclusion and they're working backwards from it. And that's just sort of how it goes with these sort of things.
Yeah. Well, so the defense, look, Drake May made some plays. The running game got going a little bit in the second half. The defense had a tough second half. But, I mean, when you're consistently getting 3 and outs from the offense, we've seen this cocktail get made every Sunday all year long. The offense doesn't do enough in the first half. The defense eventually wears out. And that's every big game they've lost has been pretty much the same formula. But even with all that, the defense had 6 sacks. You had 11 tackles for loss. Like, this is such an active front. One thing I found interesting, I didn't see the final numbers for snap count, but I felt like Alex Wright played and started and played a hell of a lot more than Isaiah McGuire, or at least it just seemed that way for me. He had another sack. He had another tackle for loss. What do you think about Alex Wright starting to show up here in a contract year?
Yes, he's doing more. He's being more impactful. Unfortunately, it's not. He does not do much in terms of rushing the passer and defeating blocks. And I desperately want him to sort of take that next step in that area, and I'm sure he does too, to make sure that he can cash in big and get a huge contract.
Yeah.
But as it is, he's an excellent run defender, and he has some really interesting viability in some of the stuff he can do in terms of dropping, and looks like a linebacker running around, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
But he's just not very good to this point when it comes to taking on and defeating blocks and sort of showcasing the stuff that teams want to see in terms of rushing the passer. That part is challenging for him. Isaiah McGuire is a little bit better on that end, but needs to be better. But like part of the reason Alex Wright is quote unquote starting, I mean, I think reps tell the story more than starting. It's because he is a really strong run defender. He is a big body. It's difficult to move him, and he can do some stuff in that end. So you're inclined to put him in on rundowns. If for no other reason, you put him and McGuire out on rundowns, because then you can put Myles Garrett in the situations you want to put him in, as opposed to needing him all the time, which in itself is a benefit and sort of helps out the situation.
I should cut your taxes.
Hold on one second, brother.
Affordable childcare can support first-time home buyers.
So, like when you get into a situation with a guy like with this, those guys are super valuable, but Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire, at least right now, don't demand, an $80 million extension.
Yeah.
They demand sort of mid-level, valuable cogs, guys that can help you out. But if you're trying to, I think there's a question to be asked, and I think the Browns are obviously continuing to search. I think in terms of cobbling together the rest of that group around Myles Garrett, they're okay. But obviously, I think the Browns would much rather get, this is the guy who's opposite Myles Garrett, and we know exactly what he's a dominant edge. Not yet. We're not there yet, but at least with the unit group they have, and I include Cam Thomas in that because I really like Cam Thomas. I'm hoping they bring him back.
Yeah.
It allows them to sort of get enough as a group that sort of allows them to be effective at that position.
Let me ask you about what do we think about Mike Hall's return? Just going off the eyeball test, he clearly needs to, ramp up, get in shape and everything like that, which is to be understood, coming off the knee injury. It was later in the year, so the rehab process took a little bit of time, stuff like that. What was your early return on Mike Hall?
I think he's essentially a sports car where, and obviously having the two surgeries is challenging, but like part of the reason I think you have to wait is because he needs to be really healthy to do what he does special, because you can see it every play. You can see just how crazy fast and athletic he is. And he was able to get into the backfield and cause some problems. He was able to sort of set up one of Myles Garrett's sacks, and then ultimately sort of got in the way of the fumble on the one he caused. But like the juice is obvious with him. Like there is just such a world of ability. So like he got 17 snaps. They were largely good. He's weirdly like, and knowing him for as long as I have, I'm amazed at how good he's been as a run defender in the NFL. I thought he would struggle with that because he's so light. But you watch him do it, and his pad level is so low, and he's so quick off the ball. Like, that is basically what Jim Schwartz wants. Like, he wants Mason Graham to be able to do this. You get so much momentum so fast that you're under the pads of the other guy, and even though you are giving up of a size advantage, you're on them so quick that they can't do anything with you. And Mike is that guy. Mike Hall is that guy, and they want more guys who can do that. But, like, I completely understand why Jim Schwartz thinks he is the prototypical 3-tech in his defense. So didn't get a ton of him. I think that whether it was a pitch count or whatever, whether it was a game flow thing, getting him some work and then being able to take advantage of the bye week and hopefully he comes out, better for it against the Jets. I don't know if that was the thought process, but like it definitely made me sort of, obviously it's frustrating me they wait so long, but in some sense, I think it was worth it because one, they had Shelby Harris, they had Aiden Huntington, they had Malik Collins, and were able to sort of carry them through real well. It's not like they were like desperate, barely getting by.
No, they played well.
It's just that now you get this element that just makes you so much better in that area, and hopefully it's going to give you pass rush up the middle that's just going to make this more dynamic. Because look, I love what Mason Graham can do, but ultimately going into the season,
Collins is what you want.
Malik Collins and Mike Hall in the middle on 3rd and long is exactly what I want to see.
Yeah. Let's talk about Carson Schlesinger. I mean, obviously the bad luck with the high ankle. I mean, whether it's really, really bad or, not that bad, you're looking at a multi-week injury. And at this point, I mean, who knows how they're going to approach it with him, given the way the season has gone. But I would hope that they would take their time with it. But man, it was nice to see him, finally make one of those interceptions, where he faked on the blitz and then he dropped into coverage. May didn't see him. It was a great play. He's such a good active player for this defense. It's really, that's going to be, I think, a bigger hurdle than people think, is the defense playing without him. I thought he brought such a special element to the unit so far.
Yeah. I mean, the Browns said they're not going to put him on IR, or at least are not putting him on IR yet. So that gives you some hope that it's not going to be super serious. I agree with you. I would rather they be patient with him. The other part about this, and it goes to my overall point, that Jim Schwartz has so much talent on that unit.
Yeah.
It's losing Carson Schlesinger sucks because he's legitimately looks like an absolute stud and looks like he could be an all-pro at some point. They can afford to be without him for a minute. Don't get me wrong, you want to have Carson Schlesinger out there, but they'll be surprised with what I saw in what he's been sort of ramping up over the course of the season. I like Mo Diabate.
I love Mo Diabate.
Yeah. So you get, I'd rather have Schlesinger out there, but if I have to live with this and go, okay, I get to see more Mo Diabate and see what he can do with those reps, I'm okay with that. This is sort of the just shows the amount of depth that side of the ball has. We just went through this with Mike Hall, and being able to survive with him and getting Aiden Huntington and those that can sort of pick up the slack there.
Yeah.
They have guys that can pick up the slack. Will it be Carson Schlesinger like impact? Probably not. But Mo Diabate is somebody I want to get reps with. I want to see him play there because I think ultimately the Browns would like to be able to have him as a longer term player. They're going to have to make a decision on Devin Bush, who's been great for the Browns this year.
Yeah.
Do they want to bring him back, or do they want to bring in Mo Diabate? Because if they have some hope that JOK is going to be back, they may not want to bring, Devin Bush back and have all these guys. Those are the decisions they're going to have to make. But I know Mo Diabate was somebody they were quietly excited about heading into the season. They suffered the quad injury, so it sort of set him back. And they've gotten really, really strong play out of Schlesinger and Bush. This becomes a major opportunity for Mo Diabate to sort of showcase what he can do. If I'm comparing this to life without Judkins, with for offenses, who's basically a death sentence right now, versus the defense without Schlesinger, the Browns can last a little while without Diabate or without Schlesinger and live with Diabate. But there are other positions they could not lose. So it sucks. I think Schlesinger is playing out of his mind. And I don't know how much if you watch NFL or pay attention to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast at all, but they just did a show where they sort of went through the 7 rounds of the draft, and they basically said who's getting, the teams that are getting the most, or the picks that are getting the most return on investment, least return on investment, and basically said they could have named both 2nd-round picks for the Browns, could have named Harold Fannin for the Browns.
Yep.
That core is
it's
one,
strong.
playing really, really good football, and then 2, in the course of about 3 minutes of football action, all of them were getting hauled off the field.
Yeah. It was, pretty brutal, and that's the thing. You're not even mentioning the fact of what, Dylan Sampson eventually represents. You're not even talking about what Isaiah Bond could develop into, or what Aiden Huntington's going to eventually represent. They got some dudes this offseason. It's nice, and when you look to the future of this defense, and, let's just say things go a little bit better this year. Everything comes back next year. They boost up the offense the offseason. The idea of JOK coming back to this defense with Schlesinger in his 2nd year, and hopefully a healthy Mike Hall going into year 2 with Mason Graham. And I don't know if they'd be able to afford to bring back Malik Collins with the season he's had, but
that they can.
I mean, that's a really intriguing defense if you add in pieces like JOK if he can return to health, and then Mike Hall once he gets up to speed and in health and good condition and stuff like that. I mean, like you can see where, like, okay, let me put it to you this way, all right? Because we want to kill Andrew Berry and we want to kill Kevin Stefanski for the state of the offense and everything that happened with the team. But if you go back to that Watson trade, and obviously Watson failed miserably, okay? But Pete, what if you dropped an absolute stud quarterback on this team right now? Does that not change literally everything about this team? Like, say they didn't miss on Watson. I would argue that Barry's done a pretty damn good job of building this team up to make a run. I mean, they took their swing, they just missed, but like you get it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they beat Washington last year. Now,
Yeah.
with a better roster setup, because Washington had a whole bunch of older players that they got lucky with, but Jaden Daniels took that team to the NFC Championship and got some luck and got some things to work. But like, that team was dead last in the NFC East. Everybody thought there was going to be another terrible year and they were going to have to figure out stuff to do with the high picks next year, sort of build around Jaden Daniels. He hits right off the bat, complete sensation, and they're in the AFC Championship. And that's the difference. I mean, Drake May was on a garbage football team last year and had showed flashes. There were a lot of people excited about Drake May last year, and that team's still not very good overall.
Yeah.
But he is that good. And they've done some smart things around him, even though last year's draft, other than Drake May, is basically not on the team anymore. So, yeah, I think that would be huge. To the question of JOK, since people are asking, a while ago, JOK posted on social media something that seemed to intimate that he seemed like he might be planning to come back next year. Now, it was vague enough, it was not definitive, that you could sort of dismiss it and make it like a Jarvis Landry type vague tweet in some ways. But like, he seemed to be suggesting that things were going well enough that maybe that was a possibility. And I don't know if it is or not. Ultimately, time will tell. But he is at least optimistic about the possibility. Now, it's one of those things where we'll see what happens when pads come on and it's real time to go and all those things. But either way, to your point, and here again, it's one of those where you sit here and go, all right, Jim Schwartz, you've got your guys, go figure it out. And the other part is, if Malik Collins makes all pro, look, somebody could offer him a boatload of money and then it's over. But if they don't, or the Browns can offer him a very competitive, I think he's going to stay because you just went all pro here. You've never had this, like, this is his best season far and away. There's an element where, and he seems to be embracing the fact, like you hear Mason Graham talking about how impactful that Malik Collins is for him and taking him under his wing and all this stuff. Maybe he's willing to do that for everybody. Maybe if he goes somewhere else, that's what he is. Maybe he was like that with the 49ers. Mm-hmm. Something seems to be clicking with him and he seems like he's happy with it. Now, money talks and all these other things, but like, I don't immediately, Shelby Harris is going to be done after this year, but I think Jim Schwartz is going to put the full court press on him. And I think that is going to be his move relative to the offseason if they can do it. It might be a 2-year deal where it's sort of like guarantees and then whatever. But bear that in mind. I'm also weirdly confident that Kevin Stefanski is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I could be absolutely dead wrong and they could change their mind. But the more I keep seeing this, I think it's going to be really difficult for them to be like, yeah, we're just going to move on from this and then hire another coach that's going to basically have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And obviously I've said all along, the locker room would be the team would be more. I think the locker room is more likely to fire Kevin Stefanski than ownership. But here we are. I don't think that's going to, I am not seeing that happen now. That could happen at some point. But I think part of the problem is I think people in that locker room know that Kevin Stefanski is better than what they're getting. They're in, they can see the plays that are there to make. They're in there in film and stuff. And so we'll see. I could be dead wrong, but yeah, I mean, if they get a quarterback, they can hit the ground running and go. Obviously, that's a big ask. You can't sort of plan that, but yeah, it changes everything. And then you have all these other picks to do stuff with. You're going to have more money to spend on things. easy by any stretch. The Browns will need to do a whole lot of things right. They'll need a little bit of luck on their side, but they can do a whole lot in one off season in terms of just completely recharging this offense and making them good, especially if, like we're talking about, they can get Isaiah Bond to a point where he can be a very good wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a huge ask.
No,
or Jamari Thrash can be a wide receiver 4 or whatever it is. Like, you get some of these guys that are going to be pieces where those things work. And if you can then add another wide receiver at the top end along with Jerry Jeudy, that can work. And I think David Njoku is probably going to stick it out. I think he's going to end up re-signing, but we'll see on that too. I don't think it's an enormous ask to get those things, but obviously it looks daunting right now. Everything else looks so bad. And yes, they have some very young receivers, which is taking a while to go. But, like, don't get me wrong. I give players a ton of credit. So I think Quinshon Judkins and Harold Fannin deserve a world of credit for being rookies who have been able to step in and be very good. But some element of that, sit there and go, okay, the coaching staff deserves credit because, one, they said, yes, these guys are good enough to trust, and we're going to with them right now. And game one, Harold Fannin's a huge part of the game plan, and Quinshon Judkins is such a huge part of this. They did not do, hey, man, we're going to ride Ben Tate for 3 games and try to get this thing going that way and 3 carries for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns isn't quite
against
enough
the Raiders
to turn the keys over to Nick Chubb. Like, I do think those things are things you have to give them credit for, even though everything else you can sit here and go, man, so much about this sucks. And so much of this for me is process. Is it a good process? The way they've handled these rookies has been a strong process.
Yeah. And not just that. I don't care who the team is, who the coaching staff is. It's next to impossible to win with this much youth on the offensive side of the ball. You can get away with youth on defense a little bit better, but certainly not on offense, and certainly not at the skill spots and the quarterback position. So, like, that's been my issue with the offense. It's so hard to really nitpick and break things down and this, that, or the other. They need more talent, yes, but they need a quarterback, and they just need to play more. And that's the problem. This is not going to be a quick fix type deal. You got to play through these lows, and with the quarterback situation we have this year, this might just be what we're stuck with through the end. Like, that's the reality of it is Dillon Gabriel might not get better, and Shedeur Sanders might not be an upgrade. Like, that's the reality of the situation right now. And let me tell you something, Bailey Zappe's not going to take the team in another direction either, So it's like, it kind of is what it is. Going over the quarterback stuff, and with the way that, college football is, kind of picking apart all these kids, all the best quarterback prospects that I'm interested in should go back to school. Right? Like, isn't that kind of like the issue that we're feeling right now? It's like your Dante Moores, your Lenora Sellers, your Ty Simpsons. These kids are, 20 and 21. They've got less than, 12, 15 starts under their belts. What are you thinking on that? Because I know we talked. I know you like mid-round guys.
Oh, I do. Look, I know there are people who are like, man, I don't like this quarterback class because I don't see this. Every week I find somebody else I'm at least intrigued by. Look, Dante should stay in school. Mm-hmm. And I think has every incentive to do it. Oregon's set up to be very good for a little while. Fernando Mendoza should come out.
Yeah.
Ty Simpson's a weird dynamic because Ty Simpson, at the beginning of the season when they lost to Florida State, there was immediately a conversation with whether they should go stick with Ty Simpson or if they should go with the hot shot young kid they have. And I don't know his name. I just know there is a guy that there's like waiting to be the next guy.
Yeah.
If Ty Simpson has a great year, and he's crushing right now, and even though I don't think he was great this past weekend, they won and keep it going. I think he's really good. Is he going to feel like I'm going to go ahead and get out now, or do I want to stay in school? And if he's good enough, obviously he's going to have enough cachet to be able to like do that. But then the risk is, using the Penn State example, Bo Pribula, unfortunately, had a serious injury of his own right as Missouri, but when he was at Penn State was like, well, I'm not sticking around if Drew Allar is going to stay here. I'm going to go elsewhere. So he transferred to Missouri. So that's a dynamic worth watching. He's really intriguing to me. But yes, to your point, I'm always worried about starts. I am consistently fascinated, and he's going to be the death of me, Josh Hoover, because Josh Hoover has like 15 big time throws and 15 turnover worthy plays, and that's sort of like his pattern. Like he's a lot of fun, and I enjoy watching him.
That's real intriguing to watch that kid throw the ball, man. He's got a whip. That's fun. Did you get me there?
And then so like with him, and he's played a ton of football. Like he's played a good amount of football. And some of this you wonder how much of this is TCU, and that causes you to throw the turnover where he plays. He's cycled through multiple receivers. And look, he's a risk taker. I think that's just part of his game. And then the other part of the Big 12 is Brendan Sorsby, who has played a good amount of football between Indiana and then now at Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. And, he needs a lot of work overall, but his tools are incredible. And in that regard, he reminds me of Jalen Milroe because he is crazy toolsy. He's not as fast as Milroe is, but he's bigger. He's actually bigger and has an incredibly strong arm. And right now the offense is such where he is the offense. And in some ways it still doesn't feel like they're putting all the weight on him. So it's like a weird dynamic because he's never throwing a ton of passes in these games, but he is racking up a ton of yards. And in the sense, like why I compared to Milroe is like, let's say you can get him in round 3, and I don't know if that's going to be realistic or not. By the end of the draft process, everybody's talking back Milroe in the first round again. Goes to the third round, but like if you get a guy like Sorsby in the third round as a project, again, you can do the things you do with the Milroe. You can put him in as a red zone package and force opponents to play 11 on 11 while you develop this kid, and just have this toolsy guy where if he eventually hits, you're off to the races. And because in that sense, just from a look at him, he looks like he's bigger than Drake May. He moves around really well, and he's got a really strong arm. So those type of guys to me are very intriguing. And then the other part that everybody seems to get wrong on this is everybody thinks they know what Kevin Stefanski wants in a quarterback, and they have no idea what he really wants in a quarterback because he's way more open-minded than people think he is, as illustrated by his path here. He has had Baker Mayfield, love Baker Mayfield, went and got Deshaun Watson, has had Jacoby Brissett, has had Joe Flacco. They drafted DTR. They've had played with PJ Walker. Like I think people have this mindset of what they think Kevin Stefanski wants, and he's way more interested. Now there is a core set of things that a quarterback needs to be able to do for him. He needs to be able to play on time. He needs to be able to operate from the pocket and do those type of things. But then the rest is like, if he's a great athlete, Kevin Stefanski would be like, "Oh, I hate that idea. I don't want the guy who's 6'5" and 250 pounds and can run people over." Like, if the Browns are sellers, who I have major concerns with and should transfer more than likely,
agreed.
He's not sitting and going, "Man, Lenore, I would hate to have a guy who's that big and strong and athletic." It comes down to the other stuff that they want at that position, and then getting that stuff right. So, like, they loved Cam Ward. They really like Jackson Dart. Those guys are not statues by any stretch. So, like, I think it's way more open than that. So, look, and as I've said along, and even though I think like Mendoza and Moore and some of these guys are sort of taking their way likely to the first round and early part of the first round, I'm not in any hurry to rank these guys and say I'm standing on the table and saying they need this. I'm more than happy to let the next 2 more months of college football play out before I'm willing to, make any grand statements. And I'll go through the tape and all that stuff. But it's just a list of guys who are interesting to me, because at one point, Jean Mateer was going to be one of those guys. And Jean Mateer still has talent. Don't get me wrong, but has shown some of the flaws with decision-making. He's a little bit reckless, but he's got a rubber arm and huge tools, and he may get drafted earlier because of that. So, if the Browns, find themselves out of position for quarterback this year, I know that will be very disappointing for a whole lot of people. I don't think of it as the end of the world just because I like what else they could theoretically do in that position.
Yeah.
If they can get a top of the line wide receiver at the top pick and then build the line out and do those things, we have a long way to go and we'll see where they ultimately end up. But like, I'm optimistic about where this draft is going to end up in a way that's going to allow the Browns to hit a lot of the things they want to hit and really transform this thing and make it way better by that point.
Yeah, and we touched on it too. It's got some considerable strength on the offensive line, which is nice. I want to say there's some good edge players, which is potentially going to be on the radar if Alex Wright continues to ascend and prices himself out of our price range. The Miami tackle is a guy that I like, but Utah's got a couple of good tackles. And then what's your boy Gunker?
Yes, Dunker from
Dunker.
Iowa, who I think is going to transition to guard and just is a tough SOB who just gets after people. I think he's a dream fit for his own scheme. And the other part of that is, I think guard is more important than tackle. It's just tackle is more difficult to find. Yeah. So if you find yourself in sort of either, if the Browns are bad or whatever, and they want to, trade from the end of the top of the second round and the late first to go get a guy like that, or maybe that's where they take a quarterback. That is an intriguing option to me. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of issues for that, or options for that, and then we'll see what happens. That Penn State guard, I need to do more research on, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name at this point. Yeah. But he's another guy that, like, those interior players, the Browns have consistently invested heavily at guard. It's super important to them. It's super important to other NFL teams, and getting that push in the middle. Tackle is just really difficult to get, which is why they go so high. And look, if you can get a Hall of Fame tackle, that is more valuable than a Hall of Fame guard. But basically at every other level, guard basically outweighs the value of tackle, at a certain point. Penei Sewell, yeah, he's, if you can get a Penei Sewell, you're going to do it. But like, the other part of this is you don't need, obviously I want the Browns to have 5 studs, but you need to have above average play at 5 spots. You don't need Hall of Fame or great play at like 2. At that point, you are better off going, quarterback or wide receiver over the other things, because they're going to have more impact.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do our little bounce around the AFC North. So after the snafu with Lamar Jackson last week and him being held back, he's poised to return this week. Tyler Huntley got him the victory against the Bears, 30-16. Baltimore's now. What's Baltimore now? 3-5, or are they 2-5?
2-5.
That's right, 2-5, and are somehow, some way, the betting favorites to win the AFC North. You got to love that if you're a Steelers fan, no?
Yeah, I mean, look, Tyler Huntley gave them a shot. It's still a really small window, but like, they've at least got a shot. But they've still got to rip off like 8 wins.
Oh yeah.
If they want to get that. Now, the fact that the Steelers lost gives them a little bit more hope. Maybe this is a division where you can potentially win it with 9. It just seems unlikely. I think you're still going to have to get to 10 if you want to win the division. Yeah. But Ravens were able to sort of, I think more than anything, as much as the Ravens sort of bailed themselves out, they put pressure on the Steelers because the Steelers cannot feel safe. The Steelers are in a world of hurt because they lost, obviously, to the Bengals, which is really going to hit them, because then they lose to the Packers and got whooped in the second half, and then they got to go play the Colts on the road, and that does not look good. Now, the interesting part for the Steelers is
I thought that game was in Pittsburgh. No, that's in Indy.
It's in Indy, I believe.
Well, that's good. I'll take that.
They lose Jalen Elliott for the season, which is a big loss for them. They made a trade today. They acquired Kyle Duggar for pocket change from the Patriots because he doesn't fit what they do anymore. And unfortunately, Kyle Duggar recently suffered an ankle injury. He's not quite the same. I'm still troubled by that trade because I actually do think it helps the Steelers out quite a bit. I don't like it.
Yeah.
because I think it helps them. So that is problematic, but their defense is bad. Like, and it's really frustrating because like Mike Tomlin is very good at beating up on guys who aren't good / are super young. So they boat race the Browns defensively, but they have looked extremely bad and very, for a team that's the highest paid defense in the league, has looked downright terrible, against a lot of teams. And like, this is, if I sort of tie this back to the Browns offense is ass. Like straight up, it is ass, but it's ass because they don't have much on it. The Steelers have Cam Hayward, future Hall of Famer, TJ Watt, future Hall of Famer. They have Derek Harmon. They have Keanu Benton. They have
Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Jalen Ramsey.
Herbig.
Yeah.
That's just their defensive line. I haven't even gotten to Jalen Ramsey. Like, that is just the defensive line, and they suck. Oh, it is at Pittsburgh. Okay. I wish it was in Indy. Yeah. But they're not playing well. So, so now, as happened, the Steelers lost 2 games in a row. So there's a lot of pressure on Tomlin again because Mike Tomlin's a defensive guy and their defense looks like crap.
Yeah.
But that is sort of the comparison that you sort of look at this thing and you're like, this is what they're dealing, this is sort of what Kevin Stefanski's dealing with. Or, I'll go to the other end of the Keystone State. Philadelphia Eagles have a ton of talent and there's, a lot of their games are struggling on offense. Like, those things drive me nuts. But yeah, ton of pressure on Pittsburgh to win against a very hot team that is kicking ass on the there's this whole thing
about right now. They look fantastic. And Jonathan, oh my God!
And the only thing that's holding you back, is people understandably don't know if they can trust Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. But to your point, their offensive line is killing people. Jonathan Taylor is playing at the peak of his powers. Mm-hmm. They have skill positions that are really good on that offense. They are absolutely destroying the line of scrimmage, have the skill, have all these things. And this is to take nothing away from Daniel Jones. He's playing really, really well.
Yeah.
But he is to his credit, good on him. He chose the right place to go.
Oh, hell yeah, he did.
to put him in a position, because the Colts have been sort of in this weird thing where they had a lot of these things going for them. And granted, the offensive line was not nearly as good as last year as it was this year. Last year they had some issues. But Tanner Bortolini has gotten squared at center, and they've gotten some other things that have worked really, really well. They needed a quarterback to drive the bus, and now the bus is fully operational and going really, really well. And yeah, to your point, you can easily make a case that the Indianapolis Colts are the best team in football.
Jonathan Taylor's your MVP. People thought it was going to be Saquon a year ago. Saquon had 15 touchdowns on the year. Jonathan Taylor's got 14 in 8 games. It's insane, man.
So, go Colts. I hope they absolutely obliterate the Steelers and I hope it's a similar situation, because maybe the Steelers can pull something out here, but they looked real bad in the second half against the Packers. This is after their bye week has passed them. I don't know how much better this thing's going to get. I keep thinking, I'll say this, the Steelers offense is better than I thought it would be at this point. Aaron Rodgers
200%.
Annoyingly better than I thought he would, and is moving well.
Yeah.
Their offensive line has gotten better. So those are elements where, I think the Steelers, if they can get their defense to play better, and I cannot say that it's not going to happen just because they have so many guys that are talented, but that's the scary part with them, is their offense is playing well enough where you sit there and you go, if they can get this sustained, they're eventually going to get to play the Dolphins and some other crap teams. But they got a lot of their early games, their early bad opponents out of the way early, and now they're sort of in it. So if they come out of this week 4-5 and say the Ravens win or the Bengals win, the temperature is going to get ramped up there quite a bit in that building.
Yeah, and one thing about Pittsburgh too, it's a very veteran roster, and it's a long season, and I'm very curious to see how they're able to maintain their health through the second half of this year, and I think that's going to be as important to them holding on to that division title as anything, But you're right, especially offensively, they're a lot better than I thought they'd be, and Rodgers to his credit, looks like a completely different guy than we've seen the last couple of years. You know, and obviously the Achilles injury 2 years ago, and then last year, there's going to be bumps in the road because he's working his way back from injury, because of the age, because of where he was and how dysfunctional that organization is when it comes to the offensive side of the football. But still, I am impressed with the way Rodgers has been able to play this year, for sure.
Now,
I wasn't expecting him to do it. I really wasn't.
They gave, whether the Browns, how they're going to attack the offensive line, the Steelers have a pretty good blueprint to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Broderick Jones isn't good, even though I hope he signs a lifetime contract.
He deserves it.
But they drafted Tony Fatanu in the first round. They drafted their Zach Frazier in the second round, and then they got Mason McCormick in the fourth round, all in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys are starting. They played well. And at the same time, they signed free agent Isaac Seumalo to play left guard, who is a really good player.
Yep.
If the Browns could sign, it's never going to be a tackle. It's always a guard. If you can get a good guard in free agency like that, and then do a similar deal where you can get a first round, whatever, second round, and then third or fourth, and hit those three things, and you will have some growing pains, as the Steelers did last year and the early part of this year. But if you can hit on the right guys and make that thing work, and I'm hoping the Browns do this while, again, hopefully stays healthy and plays out the rest of this year effectively. You sign Ken Robinson as an insurance policy. You hopefully Tevin Jenkins, similar deal. You sign him as an insurance policy as competition. You have KT Leviston, who I hope, I'm trying to be realistic, I'm hoping becomes a good third tackle for you by next year. I have no illusions, or guard, whatever. If they want to move him, that's fine. It's just, to this point, everybody's like, move him to guard. He's only played tackle in the NFL at this point. So I'm just looking at it from that standpoint. If Luke Whippler can be the center of the future, then it doesn't feel as massive a lift as it otherwise would. But nevertheless, that is still going to be a critical element to this whole thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Cincinnati and the Jets game. Little surprised by that. And especially the Justin Fields redemption was surprising, especially up until game time. I mean, had it not been for a Tyrod Taylor injury, Justin Fields probably on the bench, no?
Everything suggested that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
This is the second time Justin Fields has, I don't want to say gone off, but played well enough to sort of like give people hope that he can be that thing. Now, the Steelers could not rush him in week one. The Bengals, outside of Trey Hendrickson, have no pass rush.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, Justin Fields plays to what he has been his whole career. And when he gets to playing the Browns, he holds onto the ball forever, and Myles Garrett gets 4.5 sacks, and the Browns absolutely obliterate him. I think he's still going to have a huge, huge problem. The Bengals defense is downright terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Logan Wilson, who is an impact player, and every time they win seems to make a huge play, who says, I'd like out.
Yeah.
That is really troubling if you're the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, they benched him, right? Didn't they bench him for I know Derek Knight was the other starter, but I feel like they benched him for another rookie.
If they have, I don't know about it, but it's possible that they've done something along those lines. But like, he's obviously, the Browns gagged the game in terms of the weird laterals. Although, thank God I should say I watched Travis Kelce do that. But the Browns gagging, missing field goals, all this stuff. But like, Logan Wilson made a number of plays that ultimately allowed the Bengals to win that game. So I would love nothing more than to see him end up in the NFC. But like, the Bengals desperately need the defense to play better because they got, more production out of Joe Flacco, though Joe Flacco is day to day with an injury. I think he got hit in the shoulder. So, we'll see. We'll see how that continues to go. But like, the Cincinnati Bengals right now are just a puncher. They can punch, but that is literally every fight they're going to be in is just both teams just swinging wildly. And it's going to be like first team to 35 most of these games. So that's crazy. That part of it's crazy. I don't read into it too much in terms of how it's going to impact the Browns yet.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the Jets are going to be the Jets. on that side of the ball. I'm more curious to know who the Jets play this coming week. I think that's
going
going
to
to be
bye too. Because
are
why wouldn't the Browns get any sort of advantage from their bye? You know that. From what I can tell, we're the only team that played in Europe and came back and didn't have a bye either. It's insane to me.
Okay.
I mean,
that's crazy. So the Jets get a bye and get to play at home with the Browns. Great.
Yep.
Who do the Bengals play this week?
The Bengals have the Bears in Cincinnati.
Well, that's a lot of pressure on the Bears.
Yeah.
Who you would have thought should have come out and beat the hell out of the Ravens and just didn't. And as I look, full disclosure, I had Caleb Williams QB1 without a question.
Yeah.
But they have to be one of those teams. Obviously, reporting came out and basically polls made a spectacle of the draft process and basically didn't even take Drake May seriously.
Yeah.
No, but they are team number one. You have to be sitting there, and I'm sure Bears fans are already doing it. And look, I think Caleb Williams, I watched that kid throw the ball, and it just explodes.
I mean, yeah, but he couldn't play quarterback at USC. It was the same thing. It was the hero balls, the drop back. There's no structure. There's no on time. And don't get me wrong. I get it. I get the talent. And as a prospect, I saw every bit of Pat Mahomes in there. And not the Pro Bowl Pat Mahomes, the Texas Tech Pat Mahomes that had the tantalizing arm talent. Mm-hmm. But half the time you're pulling your hair out like, what the hell's he doing? You know, that's what I saw. I didn't think that he was ready to play right away. That was my thing.
I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that.
Man, he needed
1,000%. I thought he needed to sit. But, I saw the Mahomes stuff and said, you can coach this up. And obviously the Chiefs took the time to do it.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes gets a ton of credit in his own right. But if you're the Bears or the Bears fans, more to the point, you're sitting there going, oh my God, we passed on Drake May.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean,
that's not to say that Caleb Williams can't.
What happens though if Drake May goes to Chicago and Chicago doesn't sign a veteran quarterback, doesn't have a good offensive staff for him, and he's basically thrown to the wolves? Like if the Cleveland Browns don't take Myles Garrett, they take Pat Mahomes #1 overall, and he's their guy. Does Hugh Jackson, DeShone Kizer him? Does Hugh Jackson put him on the field immediately, bury him in the press when he struggles? All that stuff, man. Quarterback play is situational.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Caleb would have been drafted to Kansas City with Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and Eric Bieniemy and Alex Smith at quarterback, a former #1 who had already failed and can help him navigate all these things, it's just it's all situation. And these kids get crushed because it doesn't matter what the situation is. The fans expect you to be as good as your counterparts around the league, but it's not all created equal.
Yeah, but having said that, people are going to go, well, Drake May, you just throw him in there, he'll figure it out. He did legitimately. Right. So I almost hate that it works because then it encourages people just throw them on the field. They'll figure it out, or they won't, or they can't play. If that's how this works.
And think about it too. Think about the offensive line and the skill spots in New England. New England was the one team that had worse skill spots than we did entering the year. They had nothing at receiver. They had Hunter Henry, and you were hoping Travion Henderson was going to be something. And now look at Drake May. Booty's a stud. Pop Douglas is making plays. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And Stephon Diggs looks like Stephon Diggs.
He does. Stephon Diggs looks great.
So, I mean, that's it's the same thing with Jane Daniels. Legitimately, what's his face? Houston Texans quarterback his first year, who has completely regressed. And now because CJ Stroud has been done so badly by his team, he's developing problematic habits.
Yep.
That may take time to then go back and fix. Mm-hmm. I am extraordinarily concerned with what I've seen from this. And it's particularly crazy because at the time, CJ Stroud was so good so fast. Everybody's, oh my God, the Browns traded them a dynasty. Yep. They stink already. They absolutely stink, which, if I go back to the whole Myles Garrett trade, they got super high picks for those, or at least mid picks for the Deshaun Watson trade. Yes, CJ Stroud is great. Will Anderson is great. They got nothing basically out of the rest of that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's the other part where if you're like, man, I wait to trade Myles Garrett and I'm going to get great players out of this. And you hope you do, but you could be like Houston Texans where you like end up with it. And one of them was like they picked the guard who just has gotten hurt like consistently, and it's sort of ruined from that end. But yeah, I mean, it's like that stuff's absolutely crazy. So that's where I sit here and go, yeah, man, I really want the Browns to get their quarterback and all this other stuff. But there's a part of me that's like, I'd really like them to sort this thing out first.
Yeah.
In terms of getting skill and all these other things. But we'll see. Like I said, it's too early to sort of get too far into that. But like, that's where I'm not dead set on they have to do it this way. Outside of the fact, it better be on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. No, I agree with that completely. And I also agree the thing with the draft picks. Draft picks are magic beans. You know, everybody looks at a draft pick like, oh, this is a Pro Bowl player on a rookie deal for 4 years. It's not always the case, man. You can go back for the last 10 years and every single high draft pick trade that has happened, you can literally look at before. It's like, oh, we got a first rounder for this guy. That's a great deal. But then you look at what you actually get in the first round and it's like, oh, I wouldn't have made that trade. You know, it's just like everybody assumes a draft pick is of 4 years worth of a low paid Pro Bowl player. And that's not the reality of it.
Well, I mean, you just have too many, like JOK. Like JOK is a good example. JOK is absolutely everything you would have wanted to be, and then bad injury, and now might be gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not the NBA, it's not Major League Baseball. Like it's a collision sport, and it can go fast. So yeah, and it could. I mean, theoretically, it could for Myles Garrett. It's just I'm willing to bet he's going to be around for another decade, personally, or at least 5 more years anyway.
All right, so let's talk about Jacksonville. Jacksonville had their bye week this week, so we weren't lucky enough to have Trevor Lawrence throw away the game. But Jacksonville, in Jacksonville fashion, gets to go to Vegas and play the Raiders, who are, kind of rudderless and helpless at the moment. There's all sorts of talk about should they trade Max Crosby? Is Geno Smith at the end of the line? Are we going to start seeing more Kenny Pickett? I know we saw him a little bit a couple weeks ago, but I mean, this is a kind of a nightmare matchup for what we want.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you're sitting there hoping for is that, like, Brian Thomas Jr. is irate that his name has come up in trade talks, and to the point where not only is he mad, but he's actually so mad he's thinking of stabbing other people in the locker room over it before the game. Like, no, I hate this matchup because, like, the Raiders are god awful.
Yeah.
It's the NFL. It's one of those anything can happen. Maybe the Jags will just absolutely gag. But yeah, this is one of those where, like, it just reiterates how mad I am at the Chiefs for losing that game and those type of things. But like, I'm forced to watch this team play. I still don't think they're very good. The only thing that's sort of interesting for me is, and I hope the Jags continue to waste Travis Hunter, is if they're going to sort of decide to lean into him on one side of the ball or not, and just let him sort of figure it out and be good and do more of the things that will allow him to excel, or if they're going to continue to do this half measure stuff where he seemingly is just being wasted there, which again, for my purposes is fine with me, but it is seemingly a disservice to the player.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, I was always impressed with that kid, but I didn't love his fit for the Browns. I don't love the idea of a two-way player. I just think that's a lot of reps and a lot of extra collisions and stuff to put on a guy that you want to have longevity with. But man, if I'm Jacksonville, I'm playing him at receiver. He's my number 2 beside Brian Thomas Jr. He's getting as many targets as we can possibly work into our game plan. And if you want to play him on defense, for me, it's like a third down pass rusher. I'm putting him at free safety, and I'm saying just see ball, get ball. Just go play center field, use all your athleticism. I don't want you to give a rip about scheme. Yep. Nobody gets behind you. That's it. That's the easiest way to take that kid. You minimize the contact he's going to get in the running game on defense. You're going to limit the hits he takes. And just let him focus on being an offensive weapon, man. They have a good defense. They have a pretty damn tough defense. You got to score points. That blows my mind that they're doing that.
when the Jags, or I should say, when the conversation came up, my idea was to make him a safety or just call it the hunter position, whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
It's 3rd and 15, 3rd and whatever. Go out there, do whatever the hell you want.
Go get the ball, man. Make a play.
Because that is literally his best attribute is just go make plays on the ball. If you want him to put him in the slot and do some other stuff, then great. But like, I was not going to ask a guy to kind of play corner, kind of have to play backwards and play in coverage. Like, just a miserable idea that I just think was just asking too much. Like, it is really difficult to play corner full time all the time, let alone kind of sort of. So yeah, I just think it's going to be tough. My only hope for the Raiders is that hopefully by this point, Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers are going to be healthier, that they can start airing it out and throwing the ball, and Geno Smith can like have a Renaissance type performance. Do I think that's likely to happen? Probably not. But at least if Bowers and Myers are out there, they've shot like the last game, they had nobody on offense left. And it was literally Geno Smith try to make magic happen, and he may as well have been playing for the Browns in that game. They just have nothing going on. So maybe if those things are in place, they've at least got a puncher's chance. But I don't have a whole lot of hope.
All right. Well, Pete, something I want to do moving forward, because the way the season's obviously shaking out, just like kind of keep a running track of the top 10 in the draft right now, right? So if the season were to end today, we got Tennessee at number 1. We got the Jets at 2. We've got New Orleans at 3, the Giants at 4, Miami 5, Cleveland 6. Then you're looking at the Raiders, the Ravens, and Arizona, right? So I think we can both agree that the Ravens are going to work their way out of that equation. There's no way Lamar comes back and they hang around for the top 10. If he gets hurt, obviously, who the hell knows? But I mean, realistically, this looks like it's going to be the top 9. We just don't know the order just yet.
Perhaps. So just based on that, Ruben Bain is a Titan. I think that's the done deal. And so the Jets would seemingly in that scenario get Fernando Mendoza.
You think Titans would go defense over offense? You think they wouldn't go for a tackle or try to trade for a receiver or move the pick?
We're just going to take him because he's that good.
Yeah, I'll give you that. You know I'm a Ruben Bain guy.
Who plays defensive end for the Titans right now?
Right now? Oh, my gosh. What's his Dupree, right? Isn't Bud Dupree still running around Tennessee?
Like they don't have anybody. So, I mean, yeah, look, I get it. It's the whole thing of offense. They need offense. They want to get them weapons. But, like, I would imagine they would go, hey, we'll take Ruben Bain at 1 and then get a receiver at the top of the 2nd round or something along those lines. Yeah, I think that's a virtual lock. And then the Jets take whatever they think is the best quarterback in the draft at that point, and it starts working from there. And, that's the question. Are the Browns going to be in a position where they feel really good about one of these quarterbacks, that it's going to be there? Again, I'm working on the assumption Dante Moore is going to go back to school. So is Ty Simpson that good? Maybe. If not, do you go to Jordan Tyson, who I think is an absolute stud? I'm just curious what the medical says about him.
I agree with you on Jordan Tyson. I've fallen in love with that kid. I think just the physical skill set and how smooth he is just, that's tantalizing, dude. He's awesome. He's fun to watch.
And he didn't play for Arizona State this week, and Arizona State got drilled, at least for 3 quarters, by Houston. And the thing that we don't know and won't know is there going to be an Armand Menbu that's going to sort of rise up and be worth the top 10 pick? And, that offensive tackle that's going to be like, yes, we want to take that. We want to move on and start working from there. And maybe, if it's a Mekhi Lemon, who I would love, Carnell Tate, who's certainly talented, or, Denzel Boss, and we'll see what he runs, but big physical receiver, are those the guys that you sit there and go, man, sign me up for that first round? We'll see. But at least right now, I still think you're going to be in position to get the things you want to get. It may not be quarterback this year.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't want to I trying desperately not to sort of put myself in this mindset if it's not going to be, because we'll see, if Ty Simpson continues to ball out and there's 2 guys, that's certainly going to make this thing a whole lot easier. But we'll see, because if the Browns win some games, they're going to change their draft position quite a bit. But to
Oh,
your
yeah.
point, that may well be the top 9 or so picks. And then, you need to make an impact, or the other possibility, which I don't hate, honestly, is you trade down from the top 10, keep this thing rolling, have 2 more first-round picks this year and whatever, if it's that, or just continue to compile assets over the course for several years. I'm fine with that. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of players I really find intriguing. It's just sort of, one, stay healthy and finish out the season, and then we'll see where the board stacks up.
Is there anything, and I mean, obviously, the whole rest of the season is going to shake out, but me personally, because we've talked about it before, I'm not super high on getting a quarterback this year, just because I want to fully take advantage of that rookie contract, and I would hate to waste a year of it with the Deshaun money on there. Plus, I'm not overly enthralled with all the guys. I'm really hoping against hope that Shedeur Sanders can show something to at least be the young guy behind a more proven starter. Because I think they're going to go the free agent route. They have to. They have to go the free agent route to at least, or trade route, to at least raise the floor of the quarterback room, right? Maybe they take a guy in the first round. Maybe they take a mid-round guy that we've been talking about. But a veteran has to be added, right? And for me, looking at the free agents available, the only name on that list that I have any sort of intrigue with is Mac Jones. I would take Mac Jones in a heartbeat to be that guy for 1 year, that if a young guy emerges and takes over, great. But if not, you're at least going to be Mac Jones good on offense. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it would depend on, this is the problem. This is the problem is free agency comes first. So like you're stuck having to make a play for that. So unless you're the Browns and you're sitting there going, we know we can get quarterback X that we think is going to be ready to step in, or then you have to make a move there, or you have to feel good about whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders that they can go and make this thing work next year. And I don't, obviously I haven't seen Shedeur Sanders, but I don't know how you certainly can't say that now.
No.
Right now, you would have to say that you got to get a veteran.
Yeah.
So yeah, that becomes the question. I don't hate it. It's just, it becomes, if I could build up, like, let's say for the sake of argument, the Browns sign I don't know who the hell it would be, guard X to some fat contract, and you lock him up at one spot. You draft Jordan Tyson in the top 10 or Mekhi Lemon. You get another offensive lineman, presumably a tackle at the other first round pick. You can pick a guard at the second round or trade up at the end of the first. And you sort of have this thing where you sit there and go, okay, like I can make this work. And if I get a veteran, I don't think you get a Daniel Jones type return because they will not have proven it yet. But you can at least see a scenario where there's success there and it looks the way it should look. I mean, I don't rule out the possibility, however, I think they would have to go a little bit higher than this, that they'll just bring back Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. I thought the same thing, to be honest with you. It would make sense. I mean, the front office likes Pickett. The coaching staff likes Pickett. He was the plan to be the guy. It just didn't. He got hurt. And there was a weird numbers thing with the quarterback situation. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they brought him back. Especially in this case, it would be as a free agent signing.
So if they go the veteran route and they can win football games, great. The only problem is that, like, then you're in a world where you're sort of out of position potentially. And that's where I sort of get in that. And then, like, the other part of that is, even if I'd be sort of inclined to draft another quarterback somewhere in that draft and see if I can't get somebody else I like better over the course of that process. So why it would really make it easier if, one, Shedeur is able to step in and play well, or two, they get the quarterback and he can play right now and be good next year. And that's a big ask for both parts. And that's the biggest thing that I think has the potential to sort of really hold back this thing into next year. And they cannot afford it. They need to find a way to win football games, but they don't want to be in a situation where look, there are any number of ways to get a good quarterback, but, like, obviously, if you're stuck in a world, and maybe 2027 has so much talent that it doesn't matter at that position. But if you're picking in the mid rounds, it gets trickier and it becomes harder to sort of see where that sort of works out. So we'll see. It's just a really challenging thing, and that's why Dillon Gabriel stinking out the joint so far is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah,
and you do have to hope that Shedeur can be good, and that does not make me want to rush him into the lineup. It makes me want him to play when he's ready. Yeah. But I am anticipating seeing him and hoping that he can provide some life.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I feel like you have to lower the bar of expectations just because of how bad the situation has gotten and how stagnant things have been on that side of the ball. But I feel like it's impossible not to look at Shedeur and just want to see what he can bring to the table, because it's not just that the offense hasn't been good. It's that there's been so little movement to make you feel good about Gabriel back there that it's like the whole rinse, repeat, and bring it out for next Sunday is just like, it zaps the enthusiasm before the game even starts.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, at some point, I don't want to call it a breakout because I don't know that it's going to be like that. But I think at some point, it's going to get a little bit better, and they need to make that step, and they need to make another step. Now, like the last two games, penalties have been way down. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a penalty the entire first half. They had 5 overall in that game, and one of them that was stupid intentional grounding penalty.
Yeah.
They're getting better at that stuff. The offensive line seemingly is getting a little bit more stability and playing a little bit better. If they can capitalize on the bye week and get a little bit more development out of the receivers, that could be an element that sort of helps them out. And it's baby steps in some ways, but at some point, it doesn't even need to be a leap at this point. Just a real step forward at quarterback could make a big difference. And they need to start doing that. And like, that's the thing. You can't schedule these sort of eureka moments for the quarterback, but Dillon Gabriel is one. And I don't know if it's just a matter of, I don't want to say stop giving a shit, but like, just go out there and swing, man. Like, and it's not like, and I don't mean throw arm punts and prayers and stuff like this, but get in concepts where you feel confident what's going on, get to your spot and make make a confident throw and then go from there and get one of those to complete. And maybe it will open things up. Like I was really hoping that first drive was going to do that for him.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. So I'm hoping that we, with another week of prep, that being able to sort of go get that sort of take a breath, reevaluate some things and get a little bit more work that will produce that step. Hopefully the Jets will help produce that step.
Yeah.
But man, they it's got to have something, because it is incredibly dispiriting right now to watch him just not throw a meaningful punch.
Yeah. And nothing happens offensively without going through him. So if he's incapable of throwing, what the hell does the defense have to defend? It's like you said, guys can just come out in their base defense and be like, okay, go ahead and try to beat us, and we don't have the dogs, and we especially don't have the quarterback to do it. What can you do as a coaching staff outside of just hope that Dillon starts to play with more confidence and starts to push the ball and starts to see things better? I mean, I feel like what kind of schematic things can they do? Because like you pointed out earlier, that everybody always talks about throw more screens. They're waiting for screens. They're sitting on screens. So what do you do to open things up if not just like force shots downfield?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways to go about it. One, you could theoretically pare down the playbook, which is not a very tantalizing idea, given that they aren't doing that. They don't have a whole lot working for them.
Yeah.
So I mean, like you pare down the pass, not necessarily the running stuff, but the passing concepts theoretically to stuff he's more confident in. But if that's not the issue, it's just you just have to keep grinding and putting him in situations that are going to try to allow him to take those shots. Yeah. Make confident throws and hopefully break through and find that spark that allows him to do it. I don't know how much you can do, because look, Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff go to these guys and say, what plays do you like in the game plan? They don't sit here and go, we're just going to call plays and say, hope for the best. Like Dylan Gabriel, it has agency in what they are running that allows him to seemingly theoretically be in a confident position to operate. So that part is already taken care of. It's not as if they are taking that out of his hands. They're not calling plays that he doesn't want to call. So it really just comes down to, you just got to keep working. You got to keep grinding away and hoping that something shakes loose and it just works. And it happens. But it's one of those things you just don't know when it's going to happen. You just got to keep hoping that it can grind. How much of that is mentality? How much of that is Dylan Gabriel has the wrong mindset in terms of how he's trying to operate? That stuff can make a difference, but it's just, some of it is just, he's got to see it. It's got to happen. And then, success builds on itself and he gains confidence and they can go and suddenly things loosen up. But if it's not happening in the Jets in the following week, then, obviously Shedeur Sanders is on his own schedule. He needs to sort of get where he's going, but if the Jets game doesn't do it, if the game after that doesn't do it, then like you are at that point then waiting for Shedeur Sanders to get to a point where you can put him in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's where the fan base and the media is at this point, fair or unfair to Dylan. I don't know how much more he's gonna. I mean, look, if he starts in Cleveland 3 weeks from now against Baltimore, you're gonna hear boo birds, man. It's just the reality of the situation. If the Jets game goes as like these other games have gone and stuff like that, and I think that's the type of thing the Browns should be looking to avoid. It's not necessarily a fair position to evaluate any of these young guys, but you can't be as ineffective and just keep rolling out that same guy when you have a younger guy, or not a younger guy, but you have a comparable player behind him who's looking for a shot too. I don't necessarily think that that's something that's like going to lose the locker room, but at some point I could definitely see the locker room saying like, okay, like we need to, it's next man up time. He's not getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter, look, I don't expect the locker room to come out and go play Shedeur Sanders, but
no, of course.
We also aren't getting a sense that like there's uber confidence that guy's going to come in and be great either. Like,
yeah,
again, it maybe November becomes a soft target for the Browns. Again, this is on Shedeur's schedule. He's got to figure it out. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know if it's necessarily trying to avoid boos. Is just sort of, you've got to get something going at that point. And about it is because like, I don't know what Shedeur Sanders is doing.
Yeah.
I know he's working because seemingly he hurt himself because he's working so hard that it's actually causing him an issue. But like,
what do you make of him saying that his back was
I don't
no
want to be in a
deal?
position where the Browns are sort of waiting for Shedeur. They put him in a position where he goes out and fails miserably. And I suppose there's some potentially karmic justice for the amount of people who've been crying for him to go out there, that if he was to go out there and fall flat on his face, that might be worth it on some level. But certainly for the Browns, and certainly for me, I'd rather he go out and crush it. And then, the Browns all these people can say, see, he was great all along. The Browns can be like, we had to work to get to this.
Yeah. 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 And that's the toughest part, is that we haven't seen anything from Shedeur, unless it's like a quirky locker room interview or it's some workout at some high school field. We haven't seen anything since that Rams game. And I can't imagine a single football fan watching that game and not having a bad taste in their mouth from that performance. It was the stars aligned for a nightmare performance. And regardless of what you think he was surrounded by, he absolutely made the situation worse. So there is definitely a world where he's going to come in. He's going to make the offense worse than what we see with Dylan. As unbelievable as that sounds, that's within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's just really difficult for me to imagine it's going to magically work. Now, the thing is, Shedeur Sanders going to throw the ball down the field. Like,
Yes.
he will do it. Now, it may be the other team. It may be like DTR against the Ravens. His first, he threw the ball down the field.
Yep.
But it just went to the other team. So look, that part is tantalizing on some element that he's going to try to put the ball down the field and open things up. That has a benefit to it, but obviously if it's just a different kind of suck as opposed to not throwing a punch suck, then it creates its own problem. But like, that's the thing. I'm hoping, one, that Shedeur's healthy and can practice and work period and continue to develop, because they need him to get ready quickly, especially if Dylan Gabriel comes out and stinks out the joint against the Jets. And the Browns, one, need to win that game, and two, hopefully it's not a situation, and we'll see what the weather's doing and all that stuff. Hopefully it's not a situation where it's like 100 and something yards on offense in just an ugly football game and the defense just dominates. The Browns will take that as far as result, but it's not going to advance the ball in terms of making this offense any better.
Yeah, and it's not going to – I mean, that's, it's going to be no different than the Miami win. It was nice to get a win, but nobody felt any different about the team. It wasn't like we're going to stack this win and build momentum and keep it rolling. It's, we won because the other team was worse than we were, which is tough to find this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets stink. They're bad. So, I mean, so that's pressure on the Browns. Had the Dolphins game gone badly, that would have been a really bad loss. So fortunately they dominated. That'd be nice if the Browns could do that, but they've got to get some more life on offense. You've got 2 weeks to prepare. Granted, it's on the road, and granted, apparently the Jets also have a bye week, but the Browns seemingly have more upside to gain out of this 2 weeks than the Jets do. So hopefully they make the most of it.
Let me ask you this. Now, I don't know if it's official or not, but apparently Andrew Berry is not going to meet with the media over the bye week. Is that move the needle at all for you? Does that make you question anything? Or because I feel like that's been kind of the status quo since they've been here, no?
Well, I don't specifically know. I heard Mary Kay sort of say, well, he's not going to say anything different, and that they're basically allowing Kevin to be sort of the voice for both of them. I, one, think it's a bad look.
Yeah.
And two, I think it's stupid on their part, because I have always said that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are their own best advocates. And when they turn down an opportunity to speak, I think they're losing an opportunity to sort of explain what they're trying to do. And because I do think he generally comes out well. He will get stupid questions and he will navigate through them and deal with them. But when he talks generally, and he goes out there and explains what they're trying to do and sort of talks people through what his thought process, he generally comes off well. I think he's always been really good at this. I think Kevin Stefanski's always been really good at this stuff. Yeah. So I think it's a disservice in that sense to turn down an opportunity to say whatever you want to say, address the idea that, that somehow Kevin Stefanski doesn't like Shedeur Sanders and that was your pick and some of the other nonsense. But if it's trying to avoid questions that are going to try to put some perceived wedge between the two of them, you're good enough to deal with that and sort of put them in a situation where you make it very clear we're on the same page and we're trying to get through this thing, and all the other things, and talk up the fact, and the other part about this is you get an opportunity to be like, man, Harold Fann's crushing it. Quinshon Judkins is doing a great job. And Carson Swetcher, it sucks that he's hurt, but man, we think he's absolutely killing it. And, Aiden Huntington, and for all the things that are bad, and you can sit there and go 2-6 is stupid and bad and all these other things. You could sit there and go, man, Aiden Huntington's awesome. And I didn't even have to draft him or whatever it is. But I any opportunity I think Andrew Berry has or Kevin Stefanski have to own their own message, then they should. And because the problem is when you don't, the biggest problem they run into is they let, whether it's people on radio or idiots like me or whoever, we fill in that space for them.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't going to do it with any kind of consideration or honesty.
No.
They're going to go with what they want to do. So you do you allow them to essentially spin this negatively at you. Oh, well, even if Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are completely aligned on everything, this allows somebody to go, well, things must not be going very well because Andrew Berry's not speaking to the media. There must be there must be issues there. Does this mean the Browns are looking? Does this mean Jimmy Haslam's upset with the team? Like you get the opportunity to just run with all this crap, and there's no pushback for it. And whether that's true or not is ultimately unimportant. It allows what already is I won't say runaway train, but a train gaining steam in terms of momentum and narrative and all that stuff about what this means for the team. So I don't know that there's any chance that Andrew Berry's mind on this. I would certainly hope it's not something serious like, somebody died or something in his family or something super serious or something, his kid is sick or something.
Yeah.
But if it's just, I don't want to do this because of A, B, and C, I disagree. I think I think
it's a mistake.
It's not smart on his part.
Yeah. Well, and you even had, I don't know if you saw this clip today, but Jason Lloyd was on with Lima earlier today. And Lima basically said he's like, they're taking advantage and monetizing Shedeur. And Jason Lloyd went off about how this is the problem in media, is that you're creating stories that aren't even there. And for what? And like Lima just kind of laughed it off. But that's talk radio these days. That's all they're waiting for, is just something to churn up the drama, because they're not a good product on the field. So they need to make them interesting. And you nailed it with Andrew Berry not answering these questions. All you do is allow those guys to run with whatever freaking narrative they want, to twist it however they feel is the most entertaining way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, 4 hours a day is a lot. And
it's a lot.
When you can't talk about how good the football team is and you're constantly talking how bad it is, it naturally leads you to certain destinations like replacing everybody and all this other stuff, because like
something to talk
there's
about.
nothing else. Like you run out of things to do. Like, so whether, and that's what people want to talk about. And that's what, ultimately they are in a business of trying to get people to listen to them. So yeah, this is where, again, I think Andrew Berry does himself a disservice. I don't know if he has some alternate way of doing this. I would certainly hope he's not going to do some interview which is just in-house, like Kelsey Russo is going to get to ask him, or Andrew Siciliano is going to get to interview him, or Nate Zagura is going to get to do it. As much as I think Zagura does ask good questions and get some really interesting stuff, because they get into more process-oriented things, which I think
but they still sign.
It has to be somebody that's not in that build, that doesn't work there. If you're going to be serious. And I don't have a problem with that idea either. I think a press conference certainly is easier, but I mean, this is the problem, is I don't know who that person would be that I feel good about in that scenario. But, you got to talk to somebody, and maybe it's a national person as opposed to a local person, but then you're going to get people up in arms about the fact that you didn't include the local people. So just, I think it's a misstep. I hope they change their mind or come up with some alternate way to do it, but just not helpful for your cause. Allows everybody to read into it what they want, and when they read into it what they want, that is not going to be positive for you.
Yeah, I agree completely on that. All right, Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is on Tuesdays. Thank you to the OBR Streaming Network for hosting us tonight. Thank you guys in the chat. Thank all you guys watching. It's been an absolute pleasure, always is. You guys enjoy your football weekend, and we will catch you next Tuesday, same time. And we'll go over the weekend, preview the bye week, and maybe do some mid-season breakdowns. All right, guys. Always good, Peter. You take it easy. I'll catch you next week, brother.